Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN The Hub's fantasy football not waiver wire show, it's a strategy show now. Ross,
There you
you're
go.
really covering the waivers these days, and that's on Tuesdays, and we appreciate it. This is going to be every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. We're continuing on our way. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, here as always with Kasey, Vlad to the Bone Scheinbold, and Ross the Boss.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss. And yes, I'm wearing a Clippers shirt today because the Clippers play their home opener against the LA Lakers tonight. Tonight, here in LA, guess who's going? Ross the Boss.
You?
LeBron James.
Of course I'm going. It's a home
Is
Clipper
Kawhi
game.
Leonard
I'm
going?
excited.
Is Kawhi
Is
Leonard?
Kawhi Leonard
Let's talk
playing?
football. I know I got off track. I'm just excited about the Clippers opening the season against
Listen,
the Lakers.
it's kind of important that you said it, Ross, because, eventually when football starts to wind down, we will be bringing in fantasy basketball. If you guys do have fantasy basketball questions, go ahead and fire them away. But right now we're full blown in football season, as we know. It is it's the sport of kings.
Week 7 tonight.
That's right. So let's talk about the happenings of the week. What are some of the things that we need to look out for? And let's think about it from a fantasy football landscape. But obviously the real deal we can talk about as well. Go ahead, Case.
Well, I mean, now we're into the heart of bye week season. And this week this week's a doozy. You got the Bills. So you have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. You got the Eagles. So you got Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and Miles Sanders. And you got the Rams, who a lot of people they haven't produced, but a lot of people drafted expecting them. But you still have Cooper Kupp there, and the Vikings. So you have Justin Jefferson. So you have all these big name guys on buys this week. And so now's when fantasy football gets a lot tougher. How do you win the games when your first round pick or second round pick are not playing?
I mean, even in like a Superflex league, I have Kirk Cousins in our Superflex league.
Right.
He's on bye. I was lucky to get Taylor Heineke. I was like, that's amazing, because I had nobody, because I had traded away Kenny Pickett. Of course, I got Chubb in the deal, so I'm not crying too much. But, you really do have to be looking out for the bye weeks. How about injuries? What are some of the key injuries that have come up in the last week? Ross?
Well, I mean, the biggest injury right now is Jonathan Taylor. I mean, everybody drafted him first. In most leagues, he was number one, or McCaffrey was number one. But Jonathan Taylor, I think like 68% was number one in most drafts. I mean, he came out today and even said he's not playing this week. That's why we have the cover boy this week.
Yeah.
Of Dion. So the injury bug is out there. I mean, you said I never heard these words before. You said I'm lucky enough to pick up the Commanders quarterback Taylor Heineke. I never heard those words. Lucky enough.
He played pretty well last year when he was given.
But I really think his matchup this week really favors him, and I think he'll have a big game. I'm not saying it. I'm just making fun of Dan.
Right, and as a bye week fill, and I'm not saying I want him as my second quarterback.
But remember, with the bye weeks, your opponent has bye weeks too, so it's hurting him too. It's just not you; it's your opponent. But the main thing you got to do with these bye weeks is kind of navigate through it, and hopefully, if you didn't prepare for bye weeks, then I feel bad for you. But if you did prepare, like most people do, hopefully you guys can navigate your roster spots and put them in so it works for you.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, I think a couple injuries you might have, getting back to the injuries. Mark Andrews hasn't practiced for 2 days in a row. Darren Waller hasn't practiced for 2 days in a row. So the tight end position, which is already razor thin, the top, you're losing
today, Connor may not play. It's a game time decision on Connor. Yep. And then you got Winston may not play. I think the Red
He's
Rocket.
Not. I think it's Andy Dalton.
I mean, that means Michael Thomas isn't playing. As long as Winston's not playing, Michael Thomas won't play. I mean,
on a positive note about the Saints, Alvin Kamara's averaged like 21 touches the last 2 weeks.
There you go.
Finally starting to use him. And maybe that's Andy Dalton's doing, because he's more willing to change the play at the line of scrimmage or check down to.
He does. He loves checking down. You're 100% right, Kasey.
I mean, I've heard that they're leaning towards continuing to start him anyway. This Andy Dalton keeps doing these things throughout his career. He's always surprising people. Of course, we know if he plays Sunday night, we know not to trust him then. Ross has told us
tonight. Don't trust him tonight either.
Tonight.
I know Thursday night, don't trust him either. In these big games, no. But I'm just saying,
nationally televised games, yeah.
Right, but it seems like the Saints are ready to trust him. I'm also wondering, at this time of year, one of the things we have to think about, and we talk a lot about trades on this show, is what's going to happen down the road in some of these situations? Are some of these backup quarterbacks that, were highly drafted, is Desmond Ridder going to get to play? Do you think that's going to happen? Not with the way Mariota
right now. I mean, Mariota's got him 3-3 right now. Like they're surprised.
3-3, and they're 6-0 against the spread. The only
and Mariota's playing well.
6-0 against the spread. But also, let me remind the audience, if you guys have any questions about fantasy, dynasty, keeper leagues, trades, any questions you have, we know what we're doing here. We spend a lot of time studying this stuff. Unfortunately, I should be doing other things, but I study this. But if you have questions, please just type them right in. And we have super stickers, right, Dan? Tell what we have.
That's right. We have the super stickers, which is just a way to support us in general. But we also have an option where you can keep your comment right at the top. So we got comments starting to roll in right now. If the comments are rolling in fast and you want to move it up to the top, you can select, what is it called? I don't even remember what it's called.
Super Chat.
It's called Super Chat. That's right. Thank you for the reminder.
Everything's super.
Everything's super.
Nothing's just good. Everything's super.
No, that's classic America these days. Everything's super. And actually, speak of the devil, look, the comment on this show is from Super C&B Challengers. I didn't even register that. We were making our super joke, and here it is. Okay, PPR. I need a flex. Olave, Mike Williams, Christian Kirk, Eno Benjamin, Mostert, Brian Robinson. This is a pretty decent. This is pretty decent.
You go first. I'll give my opinion.
I will go last, but I have my opinion.
Okay, go ahead, Case.
So I guess I'm nominated to go first. I think in a PPR, I might lean Christian Kirk because he's volume heavy for Jacksonville. They're going against the Giants, the worst 5-1 team. And I'm a Giants fan, by the way, the worst 5-1 team, maybe in the history of the NFL. Only
because the Browns never went 5-1.
Right. The Giants 3 years in a row went 6-0 to 8-0 and then ended up missing the playoffs. So I never have a lot of confidence in their fast starts. I would probably, if I had to rank them, I would go Christian Kirk. I like Mostert. If Eno Benjamin is starting because Connor's not going, he's probably my number 3. Those would be my top 3.
Interesting. All right, Ross.
Hello, Brian Robinson. Jesus loves you more than I could say. Hey. It's Brian Robinson. I feel his matchup against Green Bay Packers this week is going to be epic. He'll have 100 yards, a touchdown. He's going to have a great game, Kasey Scheinfeld. He'll tilt to those, I'm not going to say it, to those Commanders. But I like Brian Robinson. I have a feeling he's going to have a big week. Kirk's been disappointing. Benjamin was awful last week. Mostert, he shares the ball with Chase Edmonds. I don't know there. Mike Williams was a big disappointment last week. Olave coming off an injury. I do like him. I think he'll have a good game, but not as good as Brian Robinson. So my bet is Brian Robinson. Go ahead, Dan Ratner.
This is interesting. So I think Brian Robinson will have a good game, but in a PPR league, I probably wouldn't start him over everyone else. Just because the passing is probably going to go McKissick's way. But Mike Williams, to me, is the pick. I'm surprised that I'm not hearing him on your list. I know he disappointed hugely last week. In fact, he killed me last week in 2 leagues. So I totally understand. But the week before that, he had 10 receptions and 13 targets. Keenan Allen's still out. I mean, he's going to be a target monster still. I would 100%.
Keenan Allen is playing, I believe. That's not
he's been practicing in a limited capacity.
I stand corrected on that, but I still would say.
And my fear is it's against Seattle, and I mean Justin Herbert could have a monster game. I just worry that it's going to be an Austin Eckler show.
Anything to do with the Chargers, I don't trust.
I don't trust the Chargers that much either. But of this list, I think Mike Williams is the most rock solid.
We'll disagree. You have Williams. I have Robinson.
I'm sorry, Super CMB. We clearly didn't make that clear.
We didn't really help you, but always go with the boss when you're indecisive.
Okay, well let's cut to the chase. Listen, we all said different things, so you need to trust your gut. That's something you have to do in fantasy. Do not listen to somebody else. It's the worst thing to go ahead and start somebody else that someone else said, and then lose when you could have played the guy that you thought. So trust your gut. And your gut should say Mike Williams. I'm just kidding. All right. Just Bob has joined us. He says, hello, gentlemen. Hello, Ross.
Nice to see you.
So is Ross not a gentleman? That's my question. But actually, more importantly, the Dolphins what happened to the Yankee?
What happened to the Bills or
what happened to the Yankee emblem? I mean, they lose one game. They
We're-
lose
we're
one
just
game
learning
and
about
suddenly
just
you're a Dolphins
Bandwagon.
fan.
Bandwagon.
Hey guys, we don't know what Just Bob's football fandom is yet, so it looks like it might be the Dolphins. I mean,
Tua's back,
that's
so
my
he's
leading
all
bet.
happy. That's another thing about injuries. Tua's back this week, so he's going to have a big game coming back. He'll be back where he was in the first 3 weeks. So if you have Tua, start him immediately.
Yep.
And they're playing the Steelers, right? So they're. By the way, to get back to focus on last week for a second, can we finally say I think I saw a fork in Tom Brady last week? He was going against the Steelers, who are missing their top 3 cornerbacks and Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt, and he couldn't put the ball in the end zone with any regularity as a quarterback. I think I respect the guy. He is the greatest probably quarterback of all time. But I think for fantasy purposes, we might finally just say he done.
Okay, well, why is it happening?
Divorce is a bad thing, Kasey.
That's what I was going to say. See, I don't think Tom Brady's done.
And being a clinical science, being a therapist myself, I believe it's a lot of mental instead of physical for Tom Brady.
Tom Brady's always been conquering through the mental side of the game. He's been dominating with his mind. He's in a bad spot. This season's going to be rough.
Yeah, and
but he's 45. So
no, well, that's true.
You're
that's
saying
true.
this season is going to be rough, as if next season will be better. He'll be 46. Being 46 myself, I just don't see your. I mean,
Tom Brady retired.
Are you trying to rub it in that you're 46 when I'm about to turn 48?
Girls, have a great life.
Yes, a little bit.
Listen,
your wife's getting half of everything you made the past 20 years. Your wife's
she made more money than him for most of their careers together.
That's
incredible.
I don't.
But listen,
that,
I'm not saying I'm not saying you're wrong about this, Kasey. I think Tom Brady could actually be done because eventually Father Time's gonna get him anyway. I just think that it's worth the making the distinguishment.
Have you guys seen the new commercials he's in with
he just was like, whatever,
with Father Time? Have you seen the Father Time commercials? You mentioned it, so I brought it up.
No.
He has commercials that I think it's John Hamm playing Father Time, and they're going to be like it's going to be like a series of commercials with different ones on. And Father T works out with Father Time. He plays catch. It's a great ad. Keep an eye out for it. It'll be on tonight if you watch.
I will look
game.
for it. All right, Just Bob says B Rob. By the way, I originally read it as Brob. I was like, who's Brob? B Rob is in a 3-headed backfield. It's true, and in a PPR league, I wouldn't start.
It's not 3-headed. Look how many handoffs Robin says. He's totally wrong again. Wrong.
Okay, now look, I'm going to get back.
That's why, by the way, that's why Just Bob refers to you and I as gentlemen, and then says, "And
hello, Rob."
16 rushes last week. McKissick was barely in the offense.
No, look, B Rob is taking over. It looks like, but I'm not sure that he's arrived yet. And if it wasn't PPR, I'd be 100% with you. But look, Super C&B Challenger says, true. I was personally leaning Mike Williams or Olave. Sounds like this guy, he's leaning towards what I'm saying, and I hope it's not because you think that I know better. You got to trust your gut, but I do know better. Okay, Just Bob says, it's football season, and that's why Dolphins fans since '77. That's nice. You had some glory days in those early years.
You were there at the peak.
No, he's before the undefeated team, so he can't take credit for that.
That's true. You mean after? The 72
team. He was not 72 was the undefeated team. So keep
That's
going.
true. When they only played 12 games?
I don't know.
Still impressive. Yankees fans since '76.
But they won the World Series that year.
Listen, Just Bob said
no, the Reds won the World Series that year.
They did.
Listen, Just Bob, if it's any consolation, and this is part of the advantage of talking online, I thought you were like in your mid-30s.
Yeah.
So there you go. Okay. Jaden Lamb says, pick 3 to start. JT, Eckler, Kamara, and Brees Hall.
Well, I think
JT's
that's
not playing.
Pretty easy. JT's not playing. So
there you go.
Well,
I would pick Eckler, Kamara, and Brees Hall.
I think we definitely would. Jaden, come back with who's your 4th out of that.
Yeah, so JT's not playing. So there you go.
But if he's got Deion Jackson though, let's substitute Deion Jackson in here. Let's say he's in here. Who do you take as the top 3? I still take the top 3.
I still take those 3. I think one of the things that I've realized over the last kind of 2 weeks is the rookies have all arrived. Like all the ones who are coming in with
hype is around that time. Yep.
Are all producing, whether at the running backs, it's Walker and Brees Hall. At the wide receivers, Garrett Wilson has proven it. Olave's proven it. Dotson's proven it. Drake London's proven it. I mean, the only one who's not is Treylon Burks. And it's Ryan Tannehill.
Right, it's more situation dependent. No, I always look for this time of year is when I look to see those rookies start to emerge. These rookies are emerging much faster.
Alec Pierce, I love in
Alec Pierce
Indianapolis.
has been great.
I mean,
Yeah.
University of Cincinnati. We all
Just
love Alec
Bob just
Pierce.
said that Jonathan Taylor is playing.
I heard he's not
healthy
playing.
and playing. Okay, I'm gonna do some fact checking.
Research. I heard he wasn't playing. Maybe a new report came out. I don't know.
Listen, Just Bob also says Keenan will be out. They have a bye next week. So he's speculating.
I know about
They're
the
just
bye.
saying John,
speculating.
No, today at 3:28 it was released that he was a full participant in practice today. So
the bye week can cut both ways. They could say, we'll go ahead and play him. You'll have a week to rest.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Keep an eye on Keenan Allen. We'll see what
No,
happens.
I'm talking about Jonathan Taylor was a full
Jonathan
participant
Taylor,
today.
right.
I heard he wasn't playing according to the Colts, but maybe something else happened. I don't know.
I'm gonna research that in a second, but Just Bob says in his opinion it should be Olave over Mike Williams. Let's try to remember this for next week. We're gonna see who's right, which doesn't mean we were right, however it comes out. It's pretty hard to say what's going to happen. Cameron B says, how do you guys feel about Brandon Ayuk this week? I have to start him at wide receiver 2 in my lineup due to buys. Who are they matched up against? I don't remember.
They're going against Kansas City. I love the matchup. Brandon Ayuk went to an unbelievable college. Kasey, remind me what college he went to.
I think he's a University of Arizona Wildcat.
No, he's at Arizona State Sun Devil. Thank you very much.
I think we should just do that every time.
That's why I set up Kasey to do that. So Brandon Ayuk had 2 touchdowns. He was. I would start him against the KC defense. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with Ross. I think he's probably a lower end wide receiver 2 this week because Deebo Samuel is still an alpha target monster in San Francisco. But you have to imagine it's going to be a high scoring game, and they're not going to be able to just run the clock and run the ball as much as Shanahan loves to do that. So Ayuk proved last week what he's capable of, like he did at the end of last season. He's always had good chemistry with Garoppolo. So I actually think he's a pretty safe wide receiver 2 this weekend.
I mean, I also I like any time you're playing in a matchup where you're going to have to put up a lot of points if you've got the wide receiver in the game. I think he's going to put up a lot of points. Obviously, I'd rather have Deebo Samuel also. Anyone would. But Ayuk is a pretty good play, actually, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's see. Just Bob says, I don't know what he was saying. There's some source.
I think he corrected it the next one. Taylor is healthy and playing.
Healthy and playing. Here. Taylor's healthy and playing. There we go.
He's not healthy. Keep going.
Okay. Now, Super C&B Challenger says JT is playing. So listen, we've got all those. So let's back up now.
So if JT is playing,
now we're going to go back to Jaden Lamb. JT, Eckler, Kamara, and Breece Hall. I don't know. That's really, really tough because JT, he's dinged up. Are they going to kind of use him more as a decoy? Is he going to play less? Is he going to get knocked out of the game? To me, Eckler is a no-brainer. I definitely start him. And Breece Hall has been so good lately. I don't see how you sit him. Kamara's been great lately.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good position to be in.
It is. It's a good problem to have.
Look, if they're saying JT is healthy and a full go, I don't see how you sit him. So I would probably go with Eckler going against Seattle. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. JT against Tennessee is not a bad play. And Alvin Kamara has been, like I said, he's been a monster with Dalton as quarterback in terms of getting touches and looking a little more explosive. I don't know if he found the end zone, but he's got like 120 some yards. I would probably go with those 3 and sit Breece Hall.
Yeah, Breece Hall is obviously the sit.
No, I would probably do that too. I'll tell you
what. Carter will get the ball too in New York. So you don't sit your first round draft pick. So if he's healthy,
the first pick.
It's true. And listen, I've played a lot of fantasy football, so I know what to do here. You play Jonathan Taylor, you sit Breece Hall, and then Jonathan Taylor will go out in the first quarter, and Breece Hall will go insane, and you'll be tearing your hair out. That's
exactly
what happened.
That's very possible. He could roll.
But it's like poker. You just got to play the hand right.
But you'll feel a lot worse if Breece Hall has a solid game. Let's say 10 to 12 fantasy points,
and you lose.
And JT
Taylor
puts 3 touchdowns into the end zone and 140 yards.
That's right. You got to pick which mistake can you live with. That's a big
Sid Hall, keep going.
Well, what's with you, Ross?
Wow,
why do you need to move so fast?
Because we're talking about 3 guys that are like possibly first-round draft picks in leagues.
Hey, listen, Jaden Lamb did a great job collecting running backs. We got to help him out.
Yeah.
All right, Cameron B.
You should actually trade one of those guys for a receiver if I was you.
That's true. And in fact, I like to, around the waiver wires, it's a kind of a sneaky thing to do. You'd think that people are paying attention to it more, but I love to deal for guys who have already have their waiver wire. So
They're
you know,
bye.
their bye week. If somebody's out in week 7 next week, I'm coming after them. A lot of times people discount that. They're just not paying
So
that much
Cameron,
attention.
let me answer Cameron's question. I'll
Go
do
right
this
ahead.
one. My Eagles defense, which I have in some leagues, I do have the Eagles defense, and I know they're in a bye this week. We didn't mention them for a bye, but they are. The Raiders have the best available. The Raiders are the best available in my league on waivers. At 16-team league. Yes, pick up the Raiders. They're at home against Houston. That's a great start. I love that start for the Raiders. The Raiders had a bye week to get healthy. They're playing at home. They're playing against Houston, who is they're improved from last year, but still they're the Houston Texans. Come on.
And they
So,
get gashed by the run, and Josh Jacobs is a top 5 running back right now.
There
So
you
they're gonna probably dominate possession. It's a safe play.
It's a safe play. I like the Raiders, and when you pick them up, just dump them next week. When you only use them for 1 week, you don't.
Yeah, and let me make one other recommendation in terms of these fantasy football defenses. Don't sweat it too much. Play a smart matchup, and just don't look back.
And live with the results.
It's not a big deal. But the Eagles defense, I do love. I do like the Eagles schedule, Cameron. After this week, go look at their schedule. It's unbelievable. It's the easiest schedule in the league.
They have to play the Giants twice.
Well, Kasey, if you can look on the computer,
that's good for the Eagles.
But look at the next 5 games the Eagles play after the bye week. It's easy cupcake city, we call it. And you keep that Eagles defense. You don't waive it. You waive something. You waive somebody else you have on your team.
So they have the Steelers, the Commanders, the Packers. So let's see, here's it. Steelers, Commanders.
Steelers that are fluttering. The Commanders who have a second string quarterback.
No, they play the Steelers, then the Texans, then the Commanders, then the Colts, then the Packers, then the Titans. Oh my God,
some of those teams are not even as good as you would think they are. I mean, even the Packers.
Again, it's the NFL. I get it, but what I'm saying is this: their schedule is very easy coming.
Yeah, as long as they stay healthy.
So while we're on defenses, what are the defenses that you would keep? Because to take up 2 roster spots on defenses, a lot of people don't want to do that at all. But there are some
who's on bye this week.
In general,
would you keep? I mean, Bills Mafia, very strong. Casey Shine. I guess I would keep the Bills. Would be one defense. I mean, really, who else do you guys like on? I mean, Bills.
Well, San Francisco. San Francisco's been a really good defense, but they're going against.
I'm not letting go of
Kansas
New England.
City.
I'm not going to let him go to New England. I mean,
I like New England. I mean,
they perform every year.
Let's be honest.
In my leagues.
I hate to ever say anything positive about them ever, but the Cowboys defense this year is legit. Yeah. So that would probably be the only other one I might consider keeping through a bye week.
They have this guy from Penn State, Casey. I don't even know who he is, but this guy is going to be is defensive player of the year right now. He's unbelievable.
They've looked really good. I think we all agree. I think we all agree that the Eagles are worth keeping. Here's a question: is San Francisco worth keeping?
They're they're a fringe one because they've looked dominant too. They're going against Kansas City this week. That's a pretty tough matchup, and they have a lot of injuries. I was reading their injury report and it was pretty scary. I
don't know. They gave 28 points away
because of injuries. Like their entire pass rush is hurt, I think.
Yeah, Bosa's hurt. I mean,
I could see them being on the fringe.
I mean, they give up some points in the past performances. I wouldn't keep them, no.
Okay, this is a comment back to JT. As of 3:39 p.m., he was playing. Okay, now Just Bob says it's Ayuk time of the year.
I wish.
He does it every year, even in college. So I don't actually know his track record in college so much. Do you guys know?
But he did the last 6 weeks of the year last week, or last 7 weeks of the year last year were insane.
So, yeah, yes, I mean, in college he was a deep throw. Exactly what he's doing right now. He did in college. I've watched him for 3 years. He was unbelievable.
It's really interesting too to think about what's happened with the 49ers with Trey Lance going down and Garoppolo being back in. I mean, I at least at this point, they're a much better team with Garoppolo in. I don't know if Trey Lance is going to get the job done, honestly. What do you guys think? Because, we have dynasty leaguers following here. What do you think of Trey Lance at this point?
Well, can you honestly say he's had a legitimate chance to develop yet? I mean, he sat for a year. He was a rough project coming into the league, but the tools were there. The athleticism was there. I think Kyle Shanahan is in love with the idea of a multi-dimensional quarterback who can run and throw. And so he's going to get a lot of tries, but Garoppolo is already a polished quarterback. He's a better pure passer than than Lance is at this stage. I think as long as Kyle Shanahan has a job, Trey Lance is going to get the start.
Kasey, I've got a question for you. So let's say the 49ers go to the Super Bowl with Garoppolo, Garoppolo as their starting quarterback.
They've done it before.
Do you keep him as your starter, or do you just
bring
Trey Lance in next year?
Look, didn't was it Alex Smith before? Like he would let him to the NFC Championship, and then the next year he was let go so that they could give. I'm blanking on his name. Kneeling. Is it sad that he's known more for taking a knee during this?
Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, they gave him the start. So they've done it before, and then Kaepernick had a great season, and the next year he was gone. Although that's more shrouded in controversy.
Right. All right, Just Bob does say JT is going to eat. I think that's definitely true. It's just a question of is he going to get dinged up?
He hasn't done anything this whole year, guys.
Okay, Ross, this comment is for you. Just Bob says, "Love you, Ross. Stop crying." You can respond as you need to. All right, Super CNB Charger says, "I'm starting the Jets D against my Broncos because Ross can't cook."
No, Russ cannot cook this year.
No,
Russ can't cook. He's on, Russell Wilson.
As somebody
that's a good start. The only thing that scares me is the altitude up there, and players that aren't used to it, they get winded quickly.
Well, you guys heard the reports about Russ maybe not playing, didn't you?
I've heard
because of his torn lat or whatever it is.
Well, there was rumor that he might be out for like multiple weeks, and then suddenly they were like, "No, he's practicing." I do not know what happened there, but the hardest part for fantasy managers this time around with Russ is he's playing so badly you almost want him injured, depending on what your situation is.
Yeah, I have him in one league where I drafted him.
I thought he was going to be good.
8th or 9th round, and I thought I got a steal.
Yeah.
I also unfortunately paired him with Cortland Sutton, who I also was excited about. And
well, listen,
that was a terrible stat.
If you had hit on it, you would have been doubly pleased about it. But that's the risk when you've got that stack. So it's interesting. The Jets D. Meanwhile, the Jets D has actually performed pretty well. The Jets D is 7th in fantasy leagues in points, all by themselves, and it's not like it's touchdown dependent either. They've played pretty well actually. I'm not super comfortable, but I think that's a pretty comfortable play. Just Bob says keep the Eagles, and Dallas is relentless. Got a lot of defensive talk today. Let's see. Cameron B says, thanks, guys. I'm definitely all in on the Eagles D for the rest of the season. What do you guys think about my current team, if you don't mind? 16-team, full PPR. I'm going to pull it up now. Give me a second.
16 team. Okay,
16 team. Burrow, C-Mac, Saquon, A.J. Brown, Amari Cooper, Njoku, Kareem Hunt, the Eagles D, Ayuk, Nyheim Hines, Dawson Knox, Jameson Williams, Alexander Madison, Goff, Elijah Mitchell on the IR, dumping the Raiders.
16 team.
Just
a
eyeballing
great team for 16 teams.
Right, exactly. Eyeballing it on 16-team league, I'm like, that is a lot of talent to have.
I mean, you hit on Saquon. You probably took a risk when other people were scared, and he's been dynamite.
Well, he must have because he has C-Mac that he must have gotten
C-Mac
in the first round.
Probably, I mean, Amari Cooper and A.J. Brown A.J. Brown we knew was good. Amari Cooper, we were worried about going to the Browns. He's been great. So, I mean, Goff as your backup quarterback is great. Jameson Williams.
Njoku and Kareem Hunt are good steals.
Yeah, I think if Jameson Williams comes back this week or next, like that only makes your wide receivers even deeper. I mean, Cameron, you did a nice job drafting.
And listen, if Dalvin Cook goes down for any reason, then maybe you deal one of those. I would deal C-Mac, honestly, and get a top wide receiver.
Yeah, the biggest risk is your two stud running backs haven't played a full season as adults.
Right, but you got Alexander Madison and you've got Elijah Mitchell. Hopefully
on the IR. I don't know when he's coming off.
I don't know either. Meanwhile,
I would trade CMC and maybe Cooper in a package for a top tier receiver.
Yeah, I think that
I think you need a top tier guy to win your league. I like Burrow.
Well, keep in mind it's 16 teams.
I know, but I think he can go out and get a Justin. CMC has a lot of value.
Oh, I agree. I would deal.
I think I would try to get like a Chase or Justin Coop is like I feel is the number one pick right now in fantasy football. If you can get Coop for
we've
CMC,
we've been talking about it for a number of weeks now. Wide receiver is it.
Yeah,
that's the gem of the leagues now. I mean, running
It's
backs
the
are.
age of the wide receiver, like the age of Aquarius. Now it's the age of the
It
receiver.
is. It's the
And start
dawning of
singing
the
for me
age.
right now, Dr. Dan Ratner.
You really want me to do that? It is the dawning of the age of the wide receiver.
Love it, love it.
I
See,
really went for
Case?
it. Okay,
What?
here we go.
Perfect in tune. So
Just
yes,
Bob.
I
think
would
I'm
I
gonna
would
make Kasey
trade
really
I would trade
uncomfortable.
CMC and try to get the top tier receiver. Yes, that's what I would do.
Okay, I just took pleasure in making Kasey a little uncomfortable because
I love it.
I don't
Okay.
care what anyone
Lance is
thinks.
overrated. How can he be overrated if he hasn't proved himself? He hasn't. He
Here-
started in like barely
He
any
is,
games.
but
How
I mean,
he's
they traded
overrated?
up. They traded up to the number 2 pick or 3 pick to get him. That's a sign that he was rated pretty darn high, and he hasn't delivered. I think that's the definition of
Well,
overrated.
Listen,
and
let
even
him
when he was
start a full
drafted,
season, and
look,
we'll
even
talk
when he
about it.
was drafted, he was regarded as a bit of a rough prospect. I mean,
Well, yeah, coming from North Dakota State, is that correct, Casey?
I think
or
that's
South
right.
Something like
Dakota.
that. Yeah.
I mean, I know he's from one of the Dakotas. I apologize if I got it wrong.
Yeah, we do apologize to
But
Dakotas for not being
again,
accurate about that.
he a
But
lot
he's
of
doing better with
promise.
pronouncing names.
That's
A lot
true.
of promise. I like Lance Trey. I just feel that he hasn't proven anything. He hasn't started enough games.
I
don't
just
know what
think
to tell you.
when you get a diamond in the rough, like he's saying at quarterback, you just don't know if he's gonna deliver or not. There's so many busts in that department.
Oh,
I agree with
gosh.
Just Bob. Okay, Josh Olson says, "What should I do with Deontay Johnson and Drake London?" Okay, obviously it depends on the circumstances, Josh. So let me see if you have any.
What do I do with- so Deontay Johnson, I would not start. I would not start Deontay Johnson's off my start list. He's
I mean,
on
it
my
depends
cut
on who you
list.
have, but
Yeah,
okay,
it depends who you have. But Drake London, I do like London a lot, especially this week against Cincinnati. I see a touchdown and 80 yards.
Okay, now listen. He says, I'm just following up on some of his comments, and then I'll get back
Who
to
should
others.
I trade?
He says, "Who should I try to trade Drake for?" And then he says, "I can package London with Thielen, Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Zay Jones, or all of the wide receivers on my bench." Okay, well, I mean, one of the problems I see is that London's probably your best receiver. I like London and Wilson, and I even like Thielen as decent players.
Now Drake London has only gotten like 12 targets in the last 4 weeks, so he's not. Or 24 targets, only 12 receptions in the last 4 weeks. I think that's why he's worried about Drake London.
Sure.
And if they do get Kyle Pitts more involved, which they should, by the way, Atlanta, you have the most naturally gifted tight end in the world, and you're not throwing him the ball. But
that's the dynasty league owner of Kyle Pitts.
Then does his value take a hit? But I mean, I don't like Deontay Johnson for the same reason I don't like Drake London. And not that I don't like him. My worries are the same for both teams because it's the quarterback.
Right.
Do they have a quarterback that's going to get them the ball? Kenny Pickett, I think, has shown a preference for George Pickens as his kind of top target, and how well Deontay Johnson handles that. I mean, Deontay Johnson apparently had a run-in with Mitch Trubisky, which cost Trubisky the job. So, that's a feel. Who would you trade them for?
I think we need a little more context on this team. He says, "Who should I package Drake with?"
You got to package Drake for one of your running backs. Then I mean, your receivers on that list you showed us really have no value at all.
Hold on, I don't think they have no value, but they're not going to be. They're not
barely
going to provide.
any value. I mean,
they're not going to provide
Wilson
enough value in that
the
trade.
past few weeks.
Yeah,
they're good
Zay
players.
Jones has done nothing the past couple weeks. These guys are waiver wire guys that are. Some of these guys you can pick up on waiver wire. In some leagues.
I mean, what I would look for with Drake London is because people still remember the first 3 weeks of the season. So when he was kind of hot, I would look at somebody who everybody's down on because he started the season really poorly, and think
I know who I
is
would
going
target.
to get better. Maybe somebody like Michael Gallup, now that Dak is going to be back, might be more valuable. Or somebody
I
like
would trade him straight up for Michael Gallup.
What?
I don't think I would trade London straight up for Michael Gallup, but you know
somebody
who I
like that.
Who do you like? I'm curious. Let me hear your genius idea.
Oh my God, he's so bitter today. We got to figure out what happened here. Okay, the guy I like to trade for is Mike Williams because he had a very bad week last week.
Yeah.
His value's down. He's still, I mean, he's not a wide receiver 1 probably, but he's a top tier wide receiver 2. Go grab him. You could probably get, put Drake London with somebody for a disgruntled Mike Williams owner, and you could get him. That's who I would be going for. Other ideas?
I like Godwin. I like a lot. I feel his value's down right now.
Right. You want to pick somebody whose value's down,
right?
Talent level's high.
Yeah, Godwin I like a lot. I feel he's going to have some big fantasy weeks coming up, especially with their schedule. Taylor Boyd of the Bengals, I feel, is going to pump it up, and he'll have some big games coming up. I think Joe Burrow is going to have some huge games with his schedule, which I love. Next 5 games, and then maybe Allen Robinson is coming back for the Rams. He had a touchdown.
That's another
week.
one because that's a lottery ticket one, right? If Matt Stafford develops some chemistry, this guy's an end zone, a red zone.
He's
monster.
Such a big target. I mean,
that's what Drake London is. So essentially, you're trading Drake London for who you want him to be in his prime, which is Allen Robinson.
Again,
prime.
all those receivers he's told us. It's just a guessing game who to start. I mean, any one of those guys can outperform the other. There's not.
But here's the thing: we haven't seen his whole team. So, like, if Josh told us that he's got Joe Burrow and Dak, let's say, package one of those quarterbacks with the quarterback.
Josh Reynolds, his value is coming down because St. Brown is back this week. Correct, guys? He's playing against Dallas this week.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah,
I mean, one thing you need to do is check out the managers in the league. You don't know. There could be a guy who's down on somebody like Devontae Adams because they're like a big bye week guy. They're like, I got to get somebody in for the buys. Offer Drake London and something that has a lot of value for Devontae Adams. You probably would have a hard time getting that done, but you might be surprised. So look for the guys that are down in value for whatever reason. One thing you can do is like, go to the T. Higgins owner. He had a terrible week last week for the most part.
He's been hurt. Yeah.
He's been hurt, but he had 9 targets. He had only 47 yards, but he's a guy that I'd want to pick
hurt,
up.
but yeah, I agree with you. Take T. Higgins, I love.
Yeah, or somebody, I mean, even somebody like a Robert Tonyan, if you're not really strong at tight end, somebody who Aaron Rodgers is starting to throw to again, who we know can be a top 5 or 6 tight end. That's somebody else you can certainly look at that you could get.
Now, Just Bob says, keep Deontay. I want to look at Deontay's stats. I'm going to pull it up in a second, but Just Bob also said, Drake, try to trade while he still has value. I could definitely see that. I mean, I think Drake could surprise as the season goes forward, but I know Mariota's playing well as the Falcons starter, but I don't love him for Drake's value myself.
Yeah.
So I think that's right. At first I thought you were saying trade Kenyon Drake while he still has value, and that very fast, even though he had a great week last week.
He had an unbelievable week last week. He was one of the top running backs.
So this is one of the points, though. Deontay is still getting the work, says Just Bob. So I want to look at how many targets did he actually get.
I'll tell you.
You're going to look it up? Okay, good.
I know Claypool had a touchdown for the Steelers. Like Deontay's been very quiet this year. I mean,
but Deontay's always been a little bit like that.
We have a question, Dan. Why don't you read it?
He's very hit or miss. Okay, Super CNB Challenger says, man, I have Russ. Started him first few weeks. He sucked. Picked up Tua off waivers. Nice job on that.
Great.
After he dropped like 40, started Tua that week. Tua got injured with 2 points. Russ dropped 27 that week, and I lost.
Okay, so Super CNB Challengers, drop Russell Wilson today and start Tua the rest of the year. If you're nervous about another quarterback, you can always pick up a backup guy. There's Matt Ryan who's starting to pick it up.
Matt Ryan, who threw like 50 passes last week.
He threw 50 passes. Yeah, he's starting to pick it up.
Is Teddy Bridgewater really any worse than Russ at this point? I hate to say
I don't want Russ on my team. It's just bad karma. Just get rid of the guy. Come on.
Why is it bad karma? Tell me that.
It's because the guy hasn't done anything this year. It's an embarrassment. All the money they're paying this guy more money than Kasey Scheinfeld makes in a year. You're paying him $240 million. Okay.
Ooh, it's
and I think you have to do more to earn bad karma. Like, the Browns.
They're paying him
the Browns should get bad karma.
And he's not performing.
He's really not. First they went and took Kareem Hunt after what he went through, and now they signed Deshaun Watson.
Do you remember the Bengals used to be like that? They would just take every
like in the NBA. Well, in the NBA, Portland for a while were known as the Jailblazers because they.
How about the Raiders? The Raiders, their whole team was in jail at one time, almost. I think.
I mean, the Raiders even have a jail in their facility.
I told you that. Yeah, I haven't been in that stadium yet.
Well, let's go back to that. What were you saying? You were saying just drop him. One thing I wanted to say to Super CNB Challengers is, listen, when you have 2 quarterbacks like that, you're going to have weeks where you play it wrong. I would stick with the guy you trust most. Play Tua when he's playing. I mean, he's been great. That's who I'd go with.
And he has 2 great receivers.
Yeah, that's right.
Kasey Scheinfeld can throw to those guys and have 300 yards in a game.
Well, did you see, like Tyreek Hill had the rookie throwing to him, and he still got like 12 for 100 and some.
I think he had 15 targets.
Yeah,
it was insane.
I would do the same. I would throw to Tyreek Hill the whole time if I was the quarterback. The whole time.
So
and Waddle. Of course,
Just Bob agrees with us. Getting back to the Drake trade that we're trying to package it. Try to package another player and try to upgrade wide receiver. But Josh, I think we would need to know,
he did say who the rest of his roster were. It's down near the bottom.
Let's take a look.
I have Hurts, Saquon.
I'm going to treat you like you got super chat. I'm just going to bump you straight up because I want to get to the bottom of this. I have Hurts, Saquon, Eckler, Hill, Deontay, Ertz, London, all of the receivers I previously listed.
All right, so you have Hill, who's top tier, one of the top tier guys this year.
Well, you know what? It's funny because the context of that, when I look at it and I see he's already got Hurts, he's already got good running backs, he's already got a Hill, I'm a lot less worried.
I mean, the one I would trade.
Who?
Ertz.
Zach Ertz?
I honestly think with Hopkins coming back this week, you're going to see Ertz's value tumble.
I think his value is down enough because he's just a tight end. but
I'm just saying, but he's a top 5 tight end right now.
That's true. Okay, so fine. Go ahead and deal Ertz in London.
I don't think there's much value with Ertz. I feel that right now you're kind of handcuffed what you got, unless you shouldn't trade one of your top.
Well, why don't you? I mean, if you're looking at it this way, you have all the other receivers you listed. Why don't you package Deontay and Drake together?
That's exactly what I was going to say, and get Mike Williams.
You can get somebody better than Mike Williams. You might be able to get a T. Higgins or somebody like that.
Absolutely,
and that would be better.
That'd be great.
Let's see. Look at who. Just Bob says, look at who's going to get the work down the road. I do think you do need to take a look at workload. Especially in football, you don't want to overread the statistics because there are times where, especially if they're getting the targets, keep it up. But I do have some concerns with Deontay just because George Pickens seems to be Kenny Pickett's receiver of choice, which I'm glad as the dynasty owner of Pickens.
Yeah, that was
all right.
Pickett's hurt. Is he playing this week? Anybody know?
I believe he is lined up to play, but I will check on that. Okay, Bronco Plays says trade Cook and Juju for Pierce and Evans. Standard league.
Yes, press accept.
Well, here's my question. I mean, I'm not saying it changes necessarily the outcome, but when you say Pierce, is it Pierce of the Houston Texans or Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis?
No, it's Pierce of the Houston Texans. It's Pierce of the Houston Texans, the rookie running back.
2 wide receivers for.
Yeah, if it's, I mean, as good as Alec Pierce has been, I wouldn't trade Cook and Juju.
It's not Alec Pierce. It's the running back for Houston.
Okay, I'm just saying because Evans is clearly the best receiver of the 4.
So Evans is.
You're arguably getting the 2 best players in the trade.
Evans is 1,000 yards every year and 8 or 9 touchdowns every year since he's been a rookie. So yes, I would want Evans. And
here's Just Bob's take on it. Pierce owns the backfield and Evans has Tom. Even though Tom Brady's struggling this year and we know why, I agree. I think you pull the trigger on that.
Press accept on that trade. Keep going.
Cameron B gave us some appreciation for answering his question. Thank you, Cameron. Appreciate it. We'll give you a little shout out here. Now let's see. Just Bob says, I like that Bronco. Oh, he must be talking about Bronco Plays. Yes, we agree. Just Bob agrees, and all 3 of us agree. Now here's a good point. Just Bob says they're paying Deontay a lot of money for him not to eat. It really is true. Sometimes the money does determine who's going to get what. Draft capital does too. It's something to think about. If you're not familiar with that in fantasy football, you need to know what the draft capital is. I mean, they'll keep guys around for a while if they invested in them a lot. Okay, Florida with 5 says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Good to see you, Florida. Let's see if you have a question.
Florida. How's your team doing, Florida? Tell us who's on it.
Yeah, tell us how your season's going so far, Florida.
There you go.
All right. And Super CNB Challengers, I almost called you Chargers again. Yep, I'm starting 2 of this week. Just go with it and don't look back.
My
running back situation is rough, but pick 2 out of Najee, Damian Harris
isn't
Kenyon
playing.
Drake, or Latavius Murray.
Okay, so Harris isn't playing, so throw him out.
Well, Najee is the automatic one for me. Harris isn't playing. I heard Latavius Murray's not starting.
But he didn't start last week, and he got all the carries down the stretch. They kept showing Melvin Gordon sitting on the bench like WTF.
I'm not saying it's automatic that if somebody's not starting that
that scares me. The whole situation in Denver scares me.
But I don't love Kenyon Drake here either. I mean,
that scares me
if
too.
J.K. Dobbins is not playing, maybe you play Drake.
Drake and Najee, I would start. Najee had a touchdown.
Here's my question. What times are the games? Are they all 1:00 games, or is one of them a Sunday night game? I like to look at it that way. You know, if I have one who is hopefully Sunday night or Monday
Well,
night.
I know Denver's not playing prime time again, because if they do, I'll throw my TV in the pool.
They're definitely playing. They're playing on
can't watch Denver
Thursday. They're
ever
playing on
again.
Thursday, Sunday night, and Monday.
I can't watch Denver ever again. Ever again. I'm watching.
Casey,
I'm never watching a Bronco
But Casey,
game.
tell us why you were saying that about 1 o'clock games.
Well, because if you because you're stuck, right? If you have players going in at 1 o'clock, and you're not sure about the injury situation for a 4 o'clock or an 8 o'clock game or the Monday night game
for injury situations.
So yeah, so Najee's playing Miami, right? That's a 1 o'clock game.
Najee's Miami is 1 o'clock.
So
Let
Eastern.
me look here. Let's see.
It's 10 o'clock for me.
And
But
Ross,
I'll actually be in Ohio this weekend at the Bengal game.
oh,
And I'm inviting Dr. Jan Renner. If you want to drive down,
Baltimore's a
away.
1 o'clock game.
I'll buy your ticket. I'll buy you popcorn wherever you want. It's on Ross the Boss. If you want to meet me at the game,
oh my
it's
God,
my treat.
To misquote Lando Calrissian, this deal is getting better all the time. I may pounce on that, Ross.
That'd be great. Okay, so Najee, and I would just spin the wheel and start Murray.
I would probably spin the wheel with Murray too.
I think
I
I
just
would
spin
too.
it.
I mean, Kenyon Drake's not
I don't
significantly
trust
better.
Kenyon Drake just because he plays in
I'd go Murray.
Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson.
It's also-
now, in fairness to Baltimore, they are playing Cleveland this week.
How
that's
dare
true. So
you?
Kenyon
That's my
Drake will
friend
score
Dan's team.
3 to 4 touchdowns.
But Lamar Jackson loves taking the ball.
I'll tell
like
you
if
what,
it's short,
bribe
Lamar Jackson will
Daniel.
run it in.
Bribe Daniel to play Cleveland's defense this week and then run with Kenyon Drake, and you're in good shape.
That's right. As long as I'm in, you'll be fine. Just Bob has a disagreement with, I think, something that you said, Casey, about Zach Ertz. He says, I disagree. Ertz is a solid play even more with Hopkins now. And you could certainly argue that sort of thing. But I still think...
Marquise Brown, and to be honest, Hollywood Brown getting hurt does help Ertz's value because he gets Hopkins back, but he loses his other favorite target. So you may be right. I've just been worried about Ertz's targets once Hopkins came back, but it just also coincided with Hollywood Brown's injury.
So Josh Olson may have come to this before or after we were saying this, but should I package Deontay in London for Higgins or Godwin? I think the answer is yes. We all think
I
that
like
would be a
either of
good
those
thing.
guys.
I like
yeah.
Higgins more than Godwin just because I
do
trust
too.
Joe Burrow more than Tom.
I
at this
also am
point in
not.
his career.
I also just don't trust the injury history going on with Godwin. As a mind body guy, I think when a guy's been out that much, I don't know. I'm not sure if I can trust it. Okay, a good tight end is a safety valve for quarterbacks. That's true. That's true. But the reason I think we wanted to deal him is not so much that he doesn't have value, but that he does have value.
Marquise.
Marquise.
Right?
Marquise says, should I give up Mixon and AJ Brown for Devontae Adams and Ramondre?
Let me think of this.
Mixon and AJ Brown for Devontae Adams.
Mixon's been disappointing, but he
I
still
think I would
has
do
the
that.
backfield to himself.
I still think I would do it, but it is
Yes,
tough.
press accept right now. I would do that.
I just think Devontae Adams is a big advantage there. 10-team PPR.
AJ Brown is the number one in Philadelphia, but Jalen Hurts isn't always consistent in getting balls to his wide receivers. Devontae Adams is a target monster, especially in a PPR. I think you make this trade.
And the team, by the way, is Burrow, Mixon, Monty, Jacobs, AJ Brown, Higgins, D-Hop, Sanders, and Waller.
If you have Higgins and Adams on the same team, I like that a lot. And Diop, I love that.
It's really good.
I like that a lot. Is it a 2-man league or a 4-man league you're in?
It's a 10-team.
I'm
PPR.
teasing. So yes, press accept immediately before the guy changes his mind. Press it right now. Do
All
it.
right, now Josh
1,
Olson has
2,
a
3.
follow-up question.
Press
Should
it.
I do the trade right now or wait until after this week? London could have a favorable matchup this week. I might want to hold him on him. My feeling is this: when you have a deal you like, I would take it now. So much changes week to week, and you could be making the wrong decision. I'll put in air quotes, but the fact is, when you've got a deal that you like, you got to take it while you can. Guys, what do you think?
It changes every week. You're like, oh, my guy had a great week. I'm not doing that trade. You got to do it now. You got to go with your feeling. Do it now. Throw it out there. I'm curious if the guy accepts it. I don't think he will. I'm just curious to see if he does.
So I guess my question for him would be, if you're concerned that Drake London has more value than the guy you're trading for, why are you trading him in the first place?
That is a good question.
You know, if you're worried that a matchup favorable to Drake London makes him the best wide receiver you have or the best choice of the three, then you shouldn't be trading.
Well, okay, but just to play devil's advocate, maybe what he's saying is if his value goes up, I'm going to be able to get more. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Try to trade it from the value that you have of the player. You know, you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're convinced he has a good week and I can get more for him next week, then hang on to him. But you also then run the risk of him rolling an anchor or rolling an ankle or laying an egg, and all of a sudden nobody wants to touch him.
If he rolls an anchor, that's a whole different thing. They're very heavy. He could injure himself. Super CNB Challengers says, yeah, they are paying Deontay a lot of money for him not to eat, and Russ a lot of money for him not to cook.
They should be on the same team.
They should. Well, they should, and it probably. Listen, if we wanted to match things up in the world the way it should be, he should be on the Browns.
Harris
is playing.
I thought he was coming back.
That's what I thought.
They said he was not playing for 3 weeks, but Belichick is so tricky. I
play him over Latavius or Drake if he is playing. I assume you guys would agree.
I don't know. No? I think Damian. I don't know. I don't know. I don't trust Belichick now because he has
now. When did you?
Well, when Damian was hurt, I trusted Stevenson. I trusted him a lot.
All right, I'm going to give Just Bob a shout out here, though, because he's got very accurate, good information on whether people are playing. It's helping us out a lot. Appreciate it, Just Bob.
And that game's Monday night.
That's true, which actually in some ways poses some risk because they could say he's playing now, but suddenly back out. So
he has a bad practice Saturday.
So you skipped a question, Dan? You skipped a question? The Bronco fan?
Then he said, wait, never mind. Sorry. Thank you.
That was the Pierce and Juju and Mike Evans and
okay. We answered that.
Okay.
Come on, Bronco
fan. I do not skip questions if I can help it, but thank you for bringing me to my attention in case I did. Do remember the super chat option. If for some reason you're not getting our attention and you want it, just go ahead and grab it. But you can also do it that way and appreciate it.
So we got week 7 coming up. I have a few games I want your opinions on. Do you guys mind?
No, go ahead, and then we'll get to the next question.
The Giants are playing the Jags in Jacksonville. Giants are 5-1, Kasey. I know you're wearing the shirt.
Worst 5-1 team ever.
Jacksonville's lost 3 in a row, and the Giants are getting 3 points. Who do you guys like?
I like Jacksonville by 8.
What's the spread again?
The Giants +3.
Yeah, I don't feel very comfortable taking the Giants.
And Jacksonville's lost 3 games in a row, and you're still taking Jacksonville.
Yes.
You're insane. I'm taking the Giants.
You know
Green Bay.
Yeah, I could lean Giants on that one.
Green Bay is in Washington, and they're favored by 5.5.
They're going to win by 2 touchdowns.
I'd take Green Bay.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm taking Washington.
Dude, really? They're dealing with so much.
Taylor Heineke?
Opera.
I just like when a team's in disarray like that. I just feel they'll all come together and they'll win the game. I don't know why. I just have a feeling. And Rodgers is so upset how bad his team's doing. I just see him failing again this week.
Interesting.
Atlanta, which the game I'm at, which Dr. Jane Rander could make an appearance, is playing in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's -6.
I take Cincy.
Case?
That's tough.
It is tough, but I think they're going to win.
I think Atlanta covers. I think.
All right, hold on.
Wins, I think Atlanta covers.
The streak is over for Atlanta. They're not going to cover. The Bengals win the game.
I agree. No, now hold that thought because I got to get to some questions. I got to make sure we stay.
Those are the games I just want to ask.
All right, you can bring another one. Super CNB Challenger says, all right, I appreciate you all subscribed and liked. Thank you so much. I'm headed out of town for now. I'll also be sure to be back next week to remind you all about who scored the most points in my first question so you all can see who's right. Thank you so much, Super CNB Challengers. We appreciate you here. Okay, let's see. Off topic here, says Cameron B. I drafted Rondale Moore, was bummed he was out for the first few weeks, and feared that Dortch basically took his spot. Dropped him to pick up KJ Osborne after Osborne's big week.
Yeah.
Follow up. How dumb was that?
Well, I don't know if it was Rondale Moore is one of these guys that you sit on, right? You have him on your roster. You don't play him. Then he has like one big game. Like he catches a bomb for 50 yards.
I don't love owning a guy like that.
And then like you're upset, oh, this guy, I'm going to start him next week. So you start him next week. And
then it's a dud.
It's a dud. It's a goose egg.
This is another reason I love.
I like Rondale Moore more than
I know
they
you do, but he does nothing. He just sits on your bench.
Like but I don't think you made the dumbest move when you. I mean, no. KJ Osborne is kind of a similar player.
100% Case.
But
I agree.
I think Rondell Moore's probably more valuable right now because of Hollywood Brown's injury, because now he's kind of the number 2 receiver, whereas you have Thielen and Justin Jefferson, both healthy and both target monsters much over Osborne, but they're not that different of a player.
But I really agree with what Ross said, that, you can't worry too much about a player that is so boom or bust that you're not even really sure you can start him. Again, this is why I like 2-for-1 deals. When I've got value on my bench, I want to get the best player, and then I want to rotate those spots. Because look what happened with Cameron. He said, I just dropped Osborne to pick up the Raiders defense for this week.
Good.
You're going to be turning over the back end of your roster. So why not go ahead and solidify as many spots as you can?
Yeah.
I hate it that in fantasy sports, when we talk about these strategies, then eventually they're unworkable. Everyone's like, no, I don't want a 2-for-1 deal. But ultimately, as a good player, you should know generally don't take 2-for-1 deals unless they're giving you really, really good value on those 2 players. Cameron B says, we'll probably go back and grab him next week, Osborne. I think he could be valuable if Thielen gets banged up and misses any time. Absolutely. Don't sweat, though, the back end of your roster. Use it for what you need it for. Okay, Domo says, should I trade Breece Hall and Mike Evans for Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon?
Yes.
To me, the answer is yes.
Yes.
I
don't love getting 2 players from the same offense, because if they have a bad week as a team, then you're done at 2. But I mean, Jamar Chase is clearly the alpha of all 4 of those. I've already mentioned my reservations throughout on Tom Brady. I like Breece Hall more than Joe Mixon, but I like Jamar Chase enough more than Mike Evans to take.
That's how I feel.
The downgrade at running back.
Press accept immediately and take the deal. Yes.
All right. Marquise says, thank you. You are welcome, Marquise. Thank you for joining us here. Just Bob says Jacksonville in the picks that you were talking about. He's got all the picks. Jacksonville, Green Bay, and Cincinnati.
Opposite. Oh, good. He likes one team I like. Good.
Yeah, I actually agreed with all 3 of them, but I started hedging. I was like, maybe the Giants do win that. I'm not comfortable betting on Jacksonville. All right. Cameron B says, sorry, guys, my info was wrong. I dropped Rondale Moore to pick up Elijah Mitchell off waivers and stash. I actually dropped KJ Hamler to pick up KJ.
Again,
I picked the right KJ.
Denver receiver, bad offense. That's I would KJ Hamler wouldn't be in my vocabulary.
This is the best KJ roster
KJ
move
Hamler is
of all time.
Like a 20 yards a game guy. I mean, and Osborne, these are all guys that are on your bench. You're never going to start any of these guys.
Elijah Mitchell will be a starter if he.
Oh yeah,
that was a great pickup.
He's back in 2 weeks, right, Kasey?
I think. Yeah.
So think about it that way. I mean, getting Elijah Mitchell to drop Rondale Moore and then turn over the back end of your roster, I think that's a great move.
Great move, especially getting Elijah Mitchell, who's going to be starting immediately when he's healthy.
Okay, Nezzy is asking, start 2, Kareem Hunt, Travis Etienne, Mostert, and Bateman. Wow. Well, Kareem
I would
Hunt,
go. My first thoughts are Etienne and Mostert. Etienne has.
You don't start Hunt.
I don't.
He's been horrible the past couple weeks.
And Nick Chubb gets most of the touchdown work. Etienne has been gaining value steadily the last 3 weeks. He's been, if he puts a touchdown in, he was stopped on the 1 yard line, I think. If he puts a touchdown in last week, you're talking about a top 5 running back. So, and the Giants, as much as they're 5-1, their defense doesn't strike fear in me for Etienne. Mostert, like the guy when he's healthy produces, whether it was in San Francisco or whether it's in Miami. And with Tua back, they're not going to stack the box as much as they did when it was Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson. Who was it? Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson.
Yep.
Rookie Kansas State.
I think Mostert, Pittsburgh, the game script is probably going to call for them to be winning. So they're probably going to run the ball. I just think Mostert has the most value of the rest.
I mean, it may not be fair of me to say this way, but this is what I would do as a player. Mostert, he has such an injury risk. I fear he's not even going to make it through the game. He can be a beast sometimes, but again, I'm just not comfortable with it. Meanwhile, Kareem Hunt hasn't been great, but he's been very serviceable. I mean, I would probably start Etienne and Hunt myself, but I understand starting Mostert. Bateman is not in for me in my mind. All right, let's see. Marquis said, I'm glad to get Adams. I felt bad because I traded Chase for A.J. Brown and Sanders, had too many Bengals players. All right, well, good.
You never have enough Bengal players.
That's especially not for Ross. But, I mean, the Bengals have a lot of talent going, these guys. Okay, Nezzy says, great advice. Thank you, guys. You are welcome, Nezzy. Guys, if you are willing and liked what you see, please do click like, subscribe, put your comments below. We love to talk even offline. So if you've got comments, we'll get back to you. Nezzy says, subbed and liked. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Just Bob says, keep an eye on Tyquan Thornton. He is emerging. What do you guys think? We'll finish up on this, but what do you guys think?
He had 2 touchdowns last week for New England, correct?
Yes.
Again, flash in the pan. I don't.
He also wasn't playing with his starting quarterback, so it's hard to know
exactly.
Well, and it's an interesting.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say an interesting thing that I picked up in listening to a lot of the football talk over the first several weeks of the season, particularly with Noah Brown, who everybody knows I'm a big failure
hater.
on when
Hater
fan of failure on depends how you define
You're
it.
A hater of Noah Brown.
Backup quarterbacks really have good chemistry with the backup wide receivers, the number 3, number 4, the number 4, number 5, number 6 wide receiver, because that's who they end up practicing with most of the time. And so when it's Bailey Zapp, guess who he probably threw most of the time to in the first 5 weeks of the season before.
Good point.
Before Mac got
Who was
hurt.
that?
It was probably Tyquan Thornton. And so they're both on the field at the same time. They kind of know each other really well. And so
let me make another point. There's a lot of other reasons I look at these stats from last week and they don't look that good to me. First of all, only 5 targets, only 37 yards. He had a long of 21 receptions. So most of it was in 1 reception, 1 touchdown. And here's the real reason I don't like him. It was against the Cleveland Browns. Everyone scores on the Browns. Everybody. And not only that, they were up 38-15. It was garbage time. I don't even know. Garbage time begins when the clock starts if the Browns are playing. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to rip on the Browns until...
It's horrible. You live in Cleveland. What are you doing?
I love Cleveland.
Why would you rip your team?
You know why I'm ripping
that?
on the Browns? Because I love Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
The Browns don't deserve us.
I think Thorne's a flash in the pan. I wouldn't pick him up on my team.
Yeah, I mean, he was drafted fairly high, but I don't trust New England wide receivers very much, and I don't think that his performance is showing it. Guys, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for all of your questions. We love talking fantasy sports with you. We'll be back here Thursday of next week, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. That is 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Thanks so much, Kasey. Thank you, Ross. We will see you next week.
Hit the music, Greg.
Oh, hold on. We have one last question coming in. I'm going to wrap up on this. How are you guys valuing quarterbacks right now? What kind of wide receiver or running back are you trying to get for Burrow or in a 1-to-1 trade? Nezzy, I think we might have to answer this quickly. Can we answer? What do you say, Case?
In a 1-to-1 trade, Burrow, what is he? A number 6, number 7, probably ranked quarterback. He's not part of the top 3. So the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks are so much more valuable than everybody else. So those I would expect a really good wide receiver or running back.
Yeah.
I would probably expect a really solid wide receiver 2.
Mostly I'd say this. Nezzy,
or somebody who has the majority of a timeshare.
I'm actually going to.
Nezzy, listen to me very carefully. Listen very carefully. Burrow's playing Atlanta this week. Wait till he plays Atlanta, has 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then trade him. Trade him when his value is up here.
I'm going to bring this question back next week, though, Nezzy. So tune in then. We'll talk about it then. Thanks so much, guys. It's been a pleasure. Kasey, Ross, I will see you next time.